Hey, the Schilling Show continues here. It is a Thursday edition of the program. Lots to cover today. We go now to the newsmaker line. And welcome back to the Schilling Show, Erich Pratt, the Executive Director of Gun Owners of America, on some legislation that's now being considered concealed carry reciprocity on the national level. Hey, Erich, welcome back to the Schilling Show.
Thank you, Rob. It's great to be back with you.
All right, so we've got the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. Who's carrying this and what would it do?
Well, it's a bill introduced by Representative Richard Hudson of North Carolina, and it now stands at 200 co-sponsors, including himself as the sponsor. This is one of the most popular bills in the Congress. Out of 3,000 bills, it is number 14 in terms of most co-sponsors. And what this bill would do is say, if you can legally carry a concealed firearm in your state, then you can now carry all over the country. Certainly that works with driver's licenses. You get a driver's license, you can drive anywhere in the country. That's not the case, however, with concealed carry. You could start, let's say, on the East Coast, start in Florida, and if you're traveling up to Maine, you will not be able to make, you certainly could with your driver's license, but not with your concealed carry, because you will inevitably hit states where they're not going to recognize it, and that means you become a lawbreaker if you continue to carry. And, this has real-life consequences. We look at what happened last week with the Alexandria shooting right outside of D.C., not too far from where we're at. That was as bad as it was and went on as long as it did precisely because there's not reciprocity. One of the congressmen who was there at the field, Representative Loudermilk from Georgia, says, look, if this had happened in Georgia, he would have been carrying one of his aides who normally carries and was in the car actually behind the shooter, could have stopped them. None of them were carrying because even though they can legally carry in Virginia, they don't have reciprocity with D.C., so they would become lawbreakers going back to work. Hence, they don't carry as a result. And then, in essence, you become like you're living in a gun-free zone where only the bad guys have the guns.
So, Erich, tell me about the support of this bill. I note that there are 5 here from Virginia who are co-sponsors. All of them are Republicans, including 5th District Congressman Tom Garrett. Is there bipartisan support for this bill? I'm looking at the list quickly. I see 1 Democrat, but are there more than that?
Yes. There's 3. And you got to remember, a lot of the sort of blue dog, they were known as blue dogs, somewhat conservative Democrats. A lot of them lost to Republicans. So you're not, there's more of a clear division now in the House and Senate. So the fact that we have 3 is still pretty impressive. Years ago, we were able to get lots more Democrats on it. This is a bill with a lot of support. Out of 3,000 bills, to have this much support for a gun bill is very telling. And so Gun Owners of America, we are pressing to get a vote on this because, again, this really does have real-life consequences. I mean, the Alexandria shooting was only the recent thing, but there's other cases where people have died because they didn't want to become a lawbreaker by carrying their gun into a state where they didn't have reciprocity. And, like Sandy Havel of New Hampshire, an Army veteran, he's dead because Massachusetts refuses to give reciprocity to anyone, even their neighbors in New Hampshire. And so when he went to work in Massachusetts, where he would sometimes go during part of the week, he would never take his gun into Massachusetts. He didn't want to be a lawbreaker, and he was killed one day during work violence, and where he clearly, easily could have stopped it. In fact, he even walked out of a room to confront the killer at the copier. Easily could have stopped him. Sadly, he was unarmed. So, I mean, there's too many of these type of situations that could have turned out differently if a good guy with a gun hadn't been dissuaded because of the lack of reciprocity.
We're talking with Erich Pratt, Executive Director, Gun Owners of America, on concealed carry reciprocity in a bill right now that is before the Congress. So I want to ask you about any constitutional issues. I heard an interview this morning with a congressman carrying another bill which was only specific to D.C., and I wanted to see if there are 9th or 10th Amendment issues if this bill were to go into effect.
I don't well, if you're only looking at the 9th and 10th Amendment, however, you've got the 14th Amendment, which comes after, which says that people's rights and cannot be infringed upon by a state, and therefore the 14th Amendment in Section 5 says, therefore the Congress can enforce that. Now, when you actually read the debates of the 14th Amendment, they made it clear that they wanted the first 8 amendments in the Bill of Rights to be applied against the states. And one of the amendments they specifically mentioned over and over was the Second Amendment, because newly freed slaves were being denied in many of the states, and so they specifically wanted Congress to be able to stop that. So you have the 14th Amendment, which in fact, the McDonald versus Chicago case in 2010 made that case. That's why they were able to say Chicago's gun ban is unconstitutional. It was because of the 14th Amendment and the Second Amendment together.
So let's talk about the support that we have right now. I know we have over 200 co-sponsors in the House. What's going on in the Senate? Is there a similar bill, or are there any indications someone would carry it there?
There is a similar bill. It's been introduced by the number 2 Senator John Cornyn of Texas, and it has a pretty good amount of support with 37 co-sponsors. The difficulty in the Senate, even though we have over 50 senators supporting it who would vote for it, because it's been voted on in previous Congresses, so we know where people stand. We have enough votes to pass it. The problem is we're probably one short of breaking a filibuster. We probably get to 59 votes and don't have that 60th right now. And that's the difficulty right there, because the Democrats almost certainly will want to filibuster this, because they know that if it goes to the president, he's already promised to sign it. So the strategy really is get it passed in the House, and then you can tack it onto a must-pass piece of legislation, which is a fairly common strategy, has been used time and time again. So we do have the majority support in the House. And so if people go to our website at gunowners.org, we've got an alert at the top of the page where people, if they click on that, they have pre-written language that they, with just a couple clicks of the mouse, they can send an email to their representative or to their senators encouraging them to get on this bill and to demand the leadership to bring it up for a vote.
Eric, I wanted to ask you about the immediate politicization of the shooting, the assassination attempt in Alexandria, particularly by Tricky Terry McAuliffe here in Virginia, who made the outrageous statement of 93 million deaths a day. But he couldn't help himself from jumping right into this and saying, well, this is because we don't have strict enough gun controls, and it's a call for action.
Yeah, he was only off by a few million a day, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah, that's the frequent refrain. There's too many guns on the street. Guns are being used more too often to kill. And, let's face it, any death is tragic, and
yes,
we have lots of deaths with all kinds of items, whether it's swimming pools or knives or cars. The fact is, though, when you look at guns, actually guns are being used more often to save life than to take life. And this is even according to Obama's Center for Disease Control, which studied this in 2013 and found that guns are actually used anywhere from 16 to 100 times more often to save life. So, that would be like, looking at only car accidents and saying there's too many cars on the street, or looking at swimming pool deaths and saying, we've got too many swimming pools, and ignoring all the positive effects that come from each of those items.
Erich Pratt, if people want to become a member of Gun Owners of America, support your work, or get more information, tell us how, please.
Easiest way, go to our website at gunowners.org. Like I mentioned, we've got alerts there where people can take action. They can also sign up on the right. There's a box to sign up for our free email alerts. They can also sign up for membership, for $20 membership. It's cheaper than most ammunition. So that'll truly keep them informed with what's going on, and that is what's making a difference here in Washington. The sponsor of this legislation told us it's because of our members, Gun Owners of America. We've got so many co-sponsors on this bill. That's the kind of thing we need, is more people that we can contact to put the heat on Congress, because the more heat we put, the more they see the light.
Erich Pratt is the Executive Director of Gun Owners of America. Thanks so much for joining us here today on The Schilling Show, and please give my best to Larry.
I absolutely will. Thanks so much, Rob.